in Nicaragua, it's right in the tropics between like 11 and 14 degrees north of the equator. And it has two seasons. It's kind of like Africa where it's dry and wet. And so they call it winter and summer, but that's not really cold and hot. It's just wet and dry. Winter is wet from the middle of May to like November, and December to the beginning of May is summer or the dry season. And so the weather affects the nature a lot. When I first got there, it was the end of the dry season, and so it was kind of like just a dry savanna. There were bugs and things. It was still humid, but not nearly like what you would experience just a few months later once June hit and the rains came. And I just remember May is fascinating for me because I saw the land transform. I was out in this middle of the mountain range in the middle of Nicaragua, and it was all parched. It had its it was still beautiful, but I didn't know what it was going to turn into. It became a lush Jurassic Park kind of in a few months. But in May, everything just, the aguas de mayo, the waters of May, the rains just come and transform. It's like the dirt would almost flip on itself, and green would just start to pop out, and it was so lush within a month. By June, it was totally green. From April to June, you just saw an amazing transformation, and then you get a little bit more bugs, and I remember there were like these frogs. It sounded like they were having Star Wars like battles, and it was all these noises and at night, and kind of like what you would hear maybe in Florida or in the deep south here in the U.S. Or and I really never had too much of a problem with mosquitoes. I'm sure others did. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I slept with a mosquito net. I think some missionaries did, but the abanico, I forget what it's called in English, the fan would take care of mosquitoes because it was right on your face because it was so hot at night. That's how you could sleep. I remember my first area, we took bucket showers, especially since it was the end of the dry season, and there would be little geckos, little lizards in the cement little outhouse shower that we had. I remember like that it's like looking at me, but I mean just seeing all these little lizards and things like that everywhere. I was born in a desert city, so I wasn't used to all these bugs, but you get used to I think the living conditions have improved. I mean, I'm not sure, but some of the apartments we had, you had to deal with cockroaches, sometimes rats, but there was a couple that did have quite a bit of that. Unless you're really in the jungle, you won't encounter too much wildlife. There might be some monkeys or something, a lot of birds, but not much other than that. And you just have to deal with the wet. And so I heard a joke that one time someone said, Nicaragua, 6 meses de lodo, 6 meses del polvo, 6 months mud, 6 months dust. And it's not quite that bad, but in the dry season, especially towards the end, there's just so much dust, like from February to April. And then in the rainiest parts of the year, you're just tracking through so much mud. I went through so many pairs of shoes on my mission, but I had cheaper shoes. But I remember sometimes walking through the roads, they'd become rivers, and to me it was exciting. It was like an adventure, but it was something you had to deal with. You had to have an umbrella with you often. You'd get completely soaked. They call them aguaceros, which is just kind of huge downpours, cloudburst, where you get wet instantly with how hard it rains there. But it wasn't like I don't know, like Seattle or something where it's constantly raining. It was mostly sunny Nicaragua with those everyday afternoon downpours. If there were hurricanes nearby, then it would be, I was there in '05 when Katrina and Wilma and all those hurricanes in the Caribbean. So it was a really rainy, wet season in '05, but luckily we didn't have too bad of a devastating hurricane. But that's always a possibility. But you will have dry weather and really wet weather. So but not much cold unless you're up in Matagalpa in the early mornings. Some of the highlands can get kind of cold. My coldest area was in Hinotepe, and it was just comfortable. It was a comfortable cool. It wasn't really cold, which I was fine going without a winter for 2 years, but